But 20 years in the Legion will make a boy a man. 20 years in the Legion and they will give you land. 20 years in the Legion, you'll always have a home. 20 years in the legions of Rome.
Good evening, Meridians. Welcome to How Shit Works, the show where we look behind the scenes and behind the curtain of how things run in the wonderful, glorious, laurel kingdom of Meridians. I, as always, am Ulrich. I am one of your hosts. I am a knight, a pelican, and a royal peer. I have opinions. As always, I am joined by my co-host, my partner in crime, my tag team partner, my buddy, my pal, my friend, Sir Erik Martell. Knight of Kittens, bringer of joy. Thank you, Pixie, for giving him the Snow White apron.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erik Martell, Knight of Kittens, bringer of joy, and yes, I have a Snow White apron. And I have some very loud opinions.
You're still up, Erik.
I know. I was trying to figure out what I could get away with saying. Anyway, we're just going to move on along. So tonight is the second episode of our 7th series. 1, that's a lot of and 2, I can't believe that we've done 7 of these things. What's wrong with you people? This week, though, is going to be an awesome show, and you're really going to be glad that you tuned in to see our show on Feastcrat, and who better than one of the pros from Dover, Mistress Ailleagan. Mistress Ailleagan, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Ailleagan. I've been in the SBA 27 years now. I've been Feastcratting for probably 15 of those. I got a pelican for Feastcratting. I got a laurel for medieval cooking, redactions, things like that. And I founded the Meridian Cooks Guild.
That's quite the CV. So, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. You got redaction in there before we got to the actual drinking.
Just making sure you were paying attention.
So we're good, but we're not there yet. All right. So tonight's words, as you can see on the screen, are remove, redact / redaction. I see how you got the extra bit in there. So drink when we say those. Drink when we announce we're going to go off script. That will happen a lot because Ailleagan and I are on the same show. So always remember, this game is opt-in only. You don't have to drink if you don't want to. You don't have to drink alcohol if you do want to drink. You can take a bite of a hamburger. We don't care. Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. Tonight I'm drinking margaritas out of my Please Touch Pottery mug. And as always, we'd like to thank Between Two Peers for allowing us to be a licensed franchisee of their drinking game. All right, quick note. We want to thank our audience for showing up. If you're here and not watching the fireside chat, thank you for being a part of us and tuning in to see us. If you have questions, drop them in the chat, either on YouTube or Facebook, into the comments, and the wonderful question goddess Graf and Katarina will pick them up and put them aside, and at the end of the show we'll answer those in the section we have set aside for that.
So let's go ahead and get started. And let's really get to know Mistress Ailleagan. So how and when did you find the SCA?
I was working in Nashville in like 93, I think. And I came into work one day and my supervisor had this enormous purple bruise on the inside of his arm. And I said, "What the hell happened to you?" And he said, "Oh, the Crown Prince of Meridians gave me this. Isn't it cool?" And I said, "What? The who of the what? And so actually, I guess ultimately I owe my SCA career to Duke Gareth, because he was Prince at the time, and he is the one that gave my friend / supervisor that giant bruise on his arm at fighter practice. He told me about the SCA and everything that went on, and I went, I have got to see what this is about. And the rest is history. So,
how have I known you this long and did not know this story?
I don't know.
I don't know. I never knew it was Gareth that gave the guy the bruise.
Yeah. It was his first time as Prince.
Wait, to be fair, it's not like that was a unique bruise in the history of radio.
But it was the first time I had ever seen anything like that on anybody that wasn't, automobile accident related or something like that. So
I thought you were going to say involving a safe word, and I thought we were really going to kick your butt.
That's an after show.
But apparently I said it, so
that's later in the show.
Go Buff!
Rutabaga is there.
Meatloaf. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that.
What's that?
Your safe word is meatloaf.
I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that.
What? I don't get it.
Song lyrics.
From Meatloaf, the singer.
Oh,
Okay, this is really gone off the rails.
I'm sorry. My bad.
No, it's okay. We've gone really off the rails. So let's just slide right back on.
Way off script.
So we should drink to that because that was clearly off script. And yes, I know who Meatloaf is.
Sorry, Jess.
I'm just prepping people for how this show is going to go.
That's
All
fair.
right, so we've known each other for a hot minute, and I know you have this huge for love of all things food. But other than food, what's your hook in the SCA? What keeps you playing and what keeps you coming back?
Ultimately, it's the people. I know that's a cop-out answer. I'll talk about other things.
No,
but
it always is, and that's great. That's the beauty of our organization.
But I would say easily 98% of my friend base is in the SCA, and definitely the people in my life that I am closest to are in the SCA. And I don't know what I would do without them. My life would be darker without them. So, but other than that, I've just in the last couple of years, I've really started enjoying the costuming, the early period costuming. That's fun to dig into. And that all started because of knowing Laurel in another kingdom. But that's probably another story for another time. I also really love running lists for tournaments. Love it. I was Trumpet Herald for a couple of years. I ran the list at MGT for a minute or two. I forget how many. Half a dozen, probably easily.
Easily 5.
Easily. And I helped run them as like the second for a few years before that, and I've been the second for a couple of years after that. After I was the one in charge. So, yeah, I love it. So.
And I and every other MGT coordinator appreciate you and everyone who's ever done that job.
Thank you.
Right, because I'm not going to lie. That job looks like it sucks.
If you have a good crew, it doesn't. But you have to have people that are willing to listen to what you have to say. You have to have people that are there to do the job. They can't be there to be social and wander off and heavily day drink. Little day drinking's good because it keeps you loose. But you've also got to be willing to stand up to marshals and fighters. No offense, and and heralds who were like, come on, we got to get this done. Excuse me. Do you want it done correctly? Or do you want to stop the fight and come back and rerun everything because we got the cards wrong? So,
all right. New rule. Every time Rachel does this, every time Rachel does this, we're drinking.
All right.
That's alcohol poisoning. Okay.
So, since we've all decided that someone's going to die, we should probably go ahead and get this question over with, so at least we've accomplished something.
Okay.
Who was your biggest influence in your early SCA career?
In my early SCA career, it was Dame Fiona. No doubt. She was my best friend. She was one of the first people I met. We rode to events together, and she gave me advice, and she would steer me, this is good, this is bad. She was huge. Equally, if not possibly a skosh more so, was Sir Griffin. He was the first person I met at my first event, and he's been hugely important to me over 27 years. He's never steered me wrong. He's always been a calming voice of reason. He's always given me perspective. They're both just a couple of my favorite people from back in the day.
Oh, there's still a couple of my favorite people even now.
Mm-hmm.
For a as I like to refer to us gentlemen, for a man of size, Graf can be quite the Jiminy Cricket. All right, so you got your early influences,
Right?
Do you have an SCA hero? And if you do, who are they and why? I know
That's a tough question.
the thinky questions.
It is also okay not to have one.
I don't know if I would use the word hero, but people that I really, really look up to and think, if I could ever be a fraction as solid and intelligent as they are, then I would be all right. I didn't really know him super well, but Richard Rafin, I'm sure lots and lots of people, he so much respect for that man, and across the kingdom, people respect him. His wife Elowen, one of my happiest days, actually almost brought me to tears years ago. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but we hugged and I was like, oh, it's so good to see you, and this whole thing. And whatever the comment was, she says, "Your family." And I really wanted to cry because the Rafins accepted me as one of their own. And that was huge for me. So I guess that might fit, for heroic. Mistress Gwenvin today, oh my God, because it seems like everything she touches is perfect. And I know she works really hard to make it that way, but I totally admit I consider her a very good friend, but I'm also kind of starstruck by her because she's so damn awesome. And okay, this may be a cheap answer, but Dougal, because he never quits. No matter what is thrown in front of him, he keeps going. He finds a way to work around it. He finds things to do. He's never not in the middle of something. He has always supported me, no matter how ridiculous my ideas are. He's been right there. Sometimes saying, "Okay, honey, that's a little, out of line. You need to kind of back it off a bit." But he's never flat out said, "No, that's dumb. I'm not going to help you." He's supported me in everything I've done. I wouldn't be where I am without him. So
None of those answers were cheap answers. They were all really good answers, and they're yours. You don't. No one gets to tell you that your opinion is bonkers or wrong. I think all those are great responses. Don't sell that shit short.
Right. That is correct. And I want to make a point about that here. Like, go ahead and make this a hot take. Right. So
Man, that didn't take long at all.
I get irritated when people like overly pimp their spouses on like the Kingdom page, or you see them like pimping them out for awards and stuff like that. But on the personal level, the people you consider important and who are your role models and heroes and ideals and people like that, if your spouse isn't that important to you to like mention like that, like maybe you should think about that.
It's a good point.
I mean, that's a thing. Like on the personal level, yeah, they're very important, and it's okay to love your spouse and to think they're important and to hold them in high regard. That's the whole Victorian ideal, man. We should all be doing that.
You're not wrong at all.
So,
I don't argue that at all.
Now, do you have a favorite event? Why is it MGT other than the day drinking? And if it's not MGT, why is it MGT? Because you get to day drink.
It is actually MGT. Because I really think it brings out the best in everybody in the kingdom. The fighting, the chalice tournament. I mean, come on. How can you argue with the results of what the chalice tournament brings? But everybody looks their best. Everybody brings out their best, pavilions and their flags, and they serve the best food, and the hospitality is amazing. Everybody feeds everybody and shares their libations, and I just think it's the best that the kingdom has to offer.
All right, so that was a cheap pop by me. I put that in there. I spoon fed that one because I was pretty sure that was your favorite.
Well, but the reason I chose to be elevated to the laurel at that one. So, and I read the list once or twice. So
right, a few times. All right, so I'm gonna go off script here and say, other than MGT, without the stroking of my personal ego there, what's your other favorite event?
Oh man. Maybe Kingdom ANS?
No.
Is that too easy? Just because I love to see the creativity that comes out of people, and I know they work on it through the year, and that's all cool and everything. That sounded really bad. Oh yeah, it's cool that they work on it, but my bad.
Yeah, whatevs. It's fine.
But everybody really brings it at Kingdom ANS. They really do, and you see shit there that you just won't see other times. People get creative and they dig deep, and I don't know. Again, I think it's like it's the best of the art community, where MGT brings the best of the martial community. So,
no, that's cool. And I meant to say earlier, somewhere Gwenvin is watching this, or she'll watch the replay, and she just smiled as big as the world. So that smile that you love so much, that we all do. But I remember when you were talking about that a second ago, and I just thought that came to mind when you said that. All right, so as you can tell so far, we've gone off script a few times. I expect us to go off script a lot tonight because I'm hanging out with my buddy Erik and my buddy Ailleagan, which we do that quite a bit anyway.
Yes.
And even I may not go off script so much, but these two here, who've done 549 script feasts between them, are going to just eventually just turn it into geek out mode on feasts over on the side, and I'm just going to be along for the ride. Me and my two feasts are going to be like Yeah.
Actually,
That.
one of the most fun kitchens was it Thorsten and Dalla's coronation down at Dalwhinnie, and I was starting to fall a little bit behind because some of my kitchen help bailed, and Rondalyn said, "Do you want me to go get people?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she came back with Lachlan and Erik and a couple of other people, and dude, they jumped in and thoroughly pulled my fat out of the fire. It was amazing.
Because Rondalyn gets shit done.
Yep.
I also think this goes to I'm not going to say completely unique trait among Feastcrats, but I do seem to see it more than maybe in other SCA folks, and that is the ability to go into a place where you have a lot of knowledge and still look at the person who's in charge and go, all right, what do you want me to take care of?
Right.
Wait to get told that and then go take care of it.
Right. And this, I don't know if this feeds back into a question that's later on.
And now we're off script.
Maybe we're just jumping ahead in this.
It's fine. You do you, boo.
But I think it takes a special person. It takes a special person to Feastcrat in general. It takes a special person who has Feastcratted successfully to be able to go into someone else's kitchen and say, "What do you need?" and still do what they need instead of saying, "Well, I know how we can make this better."
Right.
Because
you know what you could do.
What's that?
No, that's the statement of
right.
Know, I see what you're doing, but you know what you could do.
Right. Oh, I had a well, no, that's for later. Sorry, I won't do the whole.
We haven't even actually gotten to the first Feastcrat question. That's awesome. And I swear to God, if you keep saying Feastcrat, Erik, I don't even have a thrusting tip of my sword. I'm gonna stab you the next time we fight.
That is the word I learned. I'm carrying it to the grave.
You ride or die, baby. All right. So, what is a Feastcrat? See, I did that for you.
Thank you.
And why don't we call it chef or head cook?
To be perfectly honest, I don't know how that started. I imagine back 53 years ago, they thought it sounded more authentic. I honestly don't know. I do know that today, I guess maybe over the last 5, maybe 10 years, there has been a push to move toward feast steward or head cook or something like that. They want to remove autocrat. They want to remove feastcrat. They want to remove because they're not period terms. Does that count? Because one of those means...
You said it twice.
The word is the word.
The word is the word. Okay.
But I also think we don't call it chef because at least in the mundane world, chef has some very specific connotations regarding training and status. And, we don't call, we called Ansel the barrister, but we normally don't call people barristers or things like that. So I think there's some ookiness there.
I'm not a chef. I might be a very, very good cook, but I'm not a chef.
Cool.
So I 100% agree with that.
So, do you remember your first feast as a Feastcrat?
I do.
Feastcrat. How many events have you Feastcratted? And do you have a favorite event that you Feastcratted that comes to mind?
The first one I did was Unchained Doom. A long time ago. 15 years ago, maybe. And it was good. It was fine. I look back on it now and but yeah, it was fine. I counted a couple of years ago because I think, oh God, I've done so many feasts. I really haven't. Over the last 15 years, I've done maybe 20 or 25, I think, which
That's a lot of feasts.
It doesn't feel like a lot of feasts.
I've done 2.
But that's not your jam. Feastcratting is not your jam.
One of those was a co-feastcrat where I did a grilled cheese feast.
Oh, I like that idea. I like that.
Right.
And what favorites? Is that what you asked?
If you have a favorite.
I actually have 4 that stand out. One was Caspar and Cecilia's second, I think. Their second coronation. And that was awesome because the original plan, we had it at Woodman of the World, and we wanted to dig a pit so we could smoke the food, but the site said no, they didn't want us to dig up their volleyball court. And we were like, but we'll fill it back in, come on. So they were not having it. So a friend of ours rented a smoker, and we ended up smoking an entire pig, 4 venison haunches, 16 chickens, 8 Cornish game hens, and then we also had vegetables and bread and desserts and all kinds of stuff to go with it. And it was honestly kind of amazing because we sent everything out all at once. So the tables were piled with food everywhere. And they paraded the pig around the hall, and they were pulling just chunks of flesh off the carcass. And I had sent all the kitchen staff out because go eat, because the kitchen staff always kind of stays back in the kitchen and they eat whatever scraps come back in. And I said, no, I want y'all to go enjoy this. And Dougal and I stayed in the kitchen thinking we would eat whatever came back. But damn if nothing came back. Nothing. We were pulling fibers of meat out of the pig spine, and he'll tell you that he felt like Gollum, just kind of like, I think later I found a half an apple cherry hazelnut crumble that I ate, but there was nothing. There was nothing in the trash cans. There was nothing coming back. They ate it all, and it was the damnedest thing I'd ever seen. So that one was excellent. Thomas and Elisanda, I think it was their second coronation too. He had come to me and said, will you Feastcrat our coronation? And I said, absolutely. He said, catch is we don't know where the site's going to be. And I was like, whatever, find a site, I'll make it work. So the site we ended up using was Booker T before the renovations. So I ended up cooking a feast for 100 people or so. Which was also egg-free because I think they were following Aileron and Amber.
They were.
So yeah, food for a weekend, all egg-free. And on this site, their kitchens were the equivalent of 2 residential kitchens a half a mile apart. So yeah, so some of it was down here and some of it was up at the other hall, and we were having to run back and forth all day, but it came together and it did pretty well. That one was good. And then there was, we did a Fighters Collegium at Sharon Johnston Park, which is about 45 minutes from where I live. And it's a beautiful site, lots of open space for fighting. And then they've got trees where you can either fight or you can camp in the shade, and, big pavilion where you could sit and eat. No kitchen facilities whatsoever. So I went to Mistress Nuala and I said, hey, can I borrow your stuff? And she said, yes, sure. So between the two of us, we brought in everything we needed, and I cooked, I think it was a 3-remove feast, solely on stuff that we brought in. We brought in the grills, we brought in the coolers, we brought in, the fryers and all the utensils and everything we needed. So that was pretty excellent. So, and then the other one, the fourth one, was my Grand Chef Feast, which that was a slog, and I am still grateful to this day for everybody that helped out with it. It's also one of my greatest annoyances because I think you have to pass 21 dishes from 7 cultures.
So 21 dishes, 7 cultures, 3 dishes from each culture.
Right.
Minimum.
Okay. So minimum, right. So I don't know if you know this about me, but sometimes I tend to overdo things. Just to make sure. You got to have cushion. You know?
Right.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Makes perfect sense. If something goes wrong.
Nope.
So,
Phrasing's not a thing we do on the show.
Phrasing. I think I ended up preparing 31 dishes. And
Zoinks.
yeah. And 30 of them passed.
I'm still full from that feast.
And I will never not be angry about the one that didn't pass because I didn't know we could leave dishes out of a feast once, on the day. I didn't know we could change the menu on the day. So I was testing everything, and there was this one dish, and I tried it, and I was like, oh, this is bad. This is not good. And I didn't change it because I'd already published the recipe and I'd published the ingredients in it. And I didn't want to change it because, authenticity and allergies and the whole thing. And I didn't know I could drop it either. So I sent it out, and it was almost universally despised. And apparently there was also some discussion between the judges about whether or not they should allow it, because no, it didn't taste good, but it seemed authentic. So they kind of thought, well, we should pass it. She's a smart girl. She won't serve it again, but she did what she was supposed to do. But they ultimately did not use it. And if I had known that I could have dropped that one, then I would have had a perfect Grand Chef. And my ego will always kind of poke at me because it wasn't perfect.
I love the fact that you did 31 dishes and you're upset that one of them wasn't good. Also, isn't this the feast where you forced your salty balls upon the crown?
No, anointed musty balls.
Sorry, my bad. Your anointed musty balls upon the crown.
Yes.
Oof.
Yeah. They were. Erik looks like he doesn't know the story.
Yeah, he doesn't. I don't think he was there.
Oh.
I don't think I was there.
So I found this recipe, and no shit, the recipe was called anointed balls, or it was called balls, and I was like, I like this, just call it balls. And then at the very end of it, it said, anoint your balls well. And I went, how can I not serve this? How can I not serve this? So, but it gave no idea of what to anoint them with. So I was going through the manuscript, and there was a thing called must sauce. And it was like a cherry, and you made it with like grape must, the dregs from winemaking that you would boil down, and it had cherries in it, and because the meatballs were lamb, it actually worked really, really well together. But thanks to Caspar, who was on the throne at the time, when the dish came out, I think we had published it as anointed balls, and Sir Kedrick was serving high table, and because they had known each other for, I guess, since rocks were soft, they were announcing the course, and His Majesty at the time said, I have wanted to say this for a very long time. Sir Kedrick, anoint my balls. And of course, everybody was ruined for the rest of the night. So it was pretty excellent.
Because phrasing wasn't a thing back then either.
No, not at all. Not at all.
All right.
So I feel like the important part here is that you're fond of balls, but insist they be anointed properly. and that the Crown approves of this.
I have never had a Crown not approve my balls.
You heard it here first, folks.
And quite possibly last. But anyway.
Just saying.
It's a thing. All right. So now that the kids have gone to bed or changed channels,
Please, God, hopefully.
We're talking about meatballs. Come on. Meatballs.
right?
Meatballs.
I think we're actually to the third question on feastcratting now. So, what is your process for picking an event to feastcrat, or does the feast choose you?
Both. If it's something on the local level, it's kind of like Andunhanga is a small shire, and so a lot of times when I would feastcrat for Andunhanga, it'd be like, okay, we want to do this event. Who wants to feastcrat? Because it's not everybody's cup of tea. So that's how I did several of them. In the more recent years, I've been very fortunate enough to have people come to me and ask me if I would feastcrat their event for them. I've done coronations that way. I did Kingdom A&S. I was supposed to do Gladenfeld's investiture if COVID hadn't messed that up. I've been very fortunate that people like what I do enough that they come ask me to help out. That's the long and the short of it. Both is the super short answer.
That's fair.
So, how do you decide on a budget for food? And what does that include? Like, does it include breakfast, traveler's fare? And how do you arrange that? I guess would be the best way to put this.
That's a thing I have to work out with the autocrat. When I first started feastcratting, I was a little bit of a control freak, and I would do traveler's fare, breakfast, lunch, feast, and breakfast, and I would do it all out of the one budget. So if I said I wanted $9 a person or whatever, I did all of the meals out of that, and I operated that way for years and years. It actually wasn't until like maybe the last 2 or 3 that somebody said, we want you to do this event. We want you to feast this event. Here's your, you've got $8 a person. Okay. How many meals do you want out of this? Oh, just feast. Wait, what? You mean I can do just feast for the money that I used to do food for an entire weekend on? Are you shitting me? And that was like the angel sang or something,
Hallelujah.
So yeah, that again, the short answer is that it's what the autocrats are willing to give me to work into their budget. And it's especially when I work with other groups, because a lot of times they'll have people in their groups that want to do traveler's fare or breakfast or lunch, that they're comfortable doing smaller meals. They don't, either the people they have have not been doing it long enough to be comfortable enough to do an entire feast, or their feast experienced people don't want to do it, whatever. So they'll ask me to do it. So, and I totally just lost my train of thought. But yeah, how I figure my budget is going to come a lot from what the autocrat, my budget and what I cook, how much I cook, will be a lot of negotiation with the autocrat and that staff. So.
All right, so this is my turn to go for we don't have Ulrich's hot takes because that's a mouthful, but Ulrich's pet peeve or Ulrich's soapbox, whatever you want to say. We have an issue, I think, in this kingdom where people have this weird idea that for $5 to $6, they should get a 4-course meal, including an appetizer, 2 entrees, and a dessert for like $7.50 per person. And that is absolutely nutso.
Yep.
I mean, early on, I had some misconceptions on that, but I've since come around to the ways of the world, which is if we're steadily running feasts for $6 to $8 a person, or $10 or less a person for a 4-course meal that includes an appetizer and dessert and drinks.
Yeah.
That's a deal no matter where you go.
Exactly.
And that's just one of the things that you got something, Eric, because I want your opinion on that too. You're muted.
One of the things I think that people have forgotten is that, or like maybe they didn't know, is that feasts are significantly smaller now than they used to be. I remember doing feasts where I planned for 150 and you ended up getting well over 200. That just was a thing that happened.
Yep.
And so you sort of plan for that in the back of your head. But you could do that because, and I have actually never got more than $5 a head for a feast. So I'm really looking forward to doing one with a big budget, assuming numbers. But the more people you have, the more options that you have, because buying in bigger sizes drops the cost of what you're buying.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's actually easier to budget for 150 people than it is for 70.
Yep.
And by a lot.
Yes.
And that's how a lot of Feastcrats, particularly back in the day, would manage to make those lower cost budgets work. Is because
also back in the day, food costs weren't what they are now. I know Dougal can tell you this. He did a beggars, I don't know, whatever feast he did. He got chicken leg quarters after Easter for like 25 cents a pound. You know, you can't do that today. You can't find prices like that today.
And also, we tend not to get as much donations as we used to.
Right. Yeah, we can't do that.
I served a feast where every table got a turkey once because I got turkeys donated. It was a Magna Fair, and I got the turkeys right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And they went into the freezer. So every table got a turkey. That didn't count against my feast budget, but I don't think that's a thing anymore.
I did one time at one where I think every table got a whole ham, because after Easter, I got it for 99 cents a pound. And when I saw that, I was like, holy shit. So, I mean, every freezer of every person I knew was packed with ham for this event. I have never seen that deal since. So
I had to take an extra drink there because we're so far off topic. off script, not off topic. We're clearly on topic. That's really great. But that brings me to another side topic, which is where do you shop for this stuff? Because if you're going to the Wiggly a Piggly or to Kroger's or your main chain supermarkets, you're not getting these deals.
I believe in spreadsheets. I'll actually take a few weekends and I'll go to Walmart. I'll go to Kroger. I'll go to Sam's. If I've got friends that have Costco memberships, I'll have them check Costco. I'll go to Asian markets. I'll go to any number of Hispanic markets Hispanic, but ethnic markets to find stuff. And I'll write out, I'll have every recipe, I'll have every ingredient, and I'll have where I found each ingredient and how much each location costs for each ingredient. And I'll break it down to the per ounce or per serving or however it breaks out. it's work, you know, but if you're gonna, I'm bad about back documenting what I do, because I'll say, yeah, give me $8, $9, whatever, and I'll cook this. Well, then I have to make sure that I can cook that for the budget that I've been given. Because I remember one time, many years ago, I put in a bid for a feast. And there was another guy that put in a bid, and he brought in all of his household buddies. And he presented this menu that was insane. It was, you know, all these exotic cheeses and these meats and these wonderful things. And everybody was salivating over the menu. And of course, because he had all his buddies there, they voted him in as the Feastcrat. But then when the feast rolled around, it was completely different, because there was no way his budget was going to support that. So it pissed me off that I lost out to a guy that worked the system. But it also made me realize that I can never be that guy. I will totally say menu subject to change, because sometimes it's inevitable. You know, sometimes you can't help it. But I will never utterly not serve the menu that I bid in, that's presented with the flyer, because that's not fair. You know, there's a reason I got this job, and then there's a reason that people are staying for feast. And if I don't give them what they want, then I suck. So.
Right. And if you're always, you know, not you, but if people are always misrepresenting what they're serving, then if they see that person as a feastcrat, they're gonna be like, yeah, not going to that feast.
Right.
All right. So
okay, there was one that I completely misrepresented, but no, this is not that. For Barton Oda's coronation, they wanted to do a Roman feast, and I was like, can we, huh? And they were super great sports, and they said, yeah, have fun with it. So I went through all of my Roman resources, and I pulled out the most horrific sounding things I could find, and I built a menu, and it was like a month and a half out, and I published that under the guise of, oh, they've given me so much freedom, and I'm so excited to try this. And it was like flamingo tongue pate and cuttlefish croquettes and stuff like that. And it was I thought it was obviously a joke, but that's been the only time I've intentionally misrepresented a feast. So.
And holy crap, did some people get butthurt?
Ooh, didn't they? Yes, they did.
That's all I have to say about that.
Nope, you're not wrong.
Quickly, Adriana points out that 29-cent chicken leg quarters, 99-cent chuck roast, none of that stuff exists anymore.
Yeah, she's right, and that's a shame.
Yep. All right, so actually back on subject. Trying really hard.
Sorry.
It's okay. It was me. I did it. All right. So, how do you develop a menu, and do you always go with a theme?
Depends on what the autocrat wants. Sometimes there's not really a theme to the event. Sometimes it's a very loose theme. Sometimes they want the War of the Roses. So they want food of that area or areas and, in time frame. So that's what I give them, what they want. Strict themed events are not as prevalent as they used to be. Anymore, it's like, yeah, just feed people. We just want what's good. And that's cool. But I do really, really enjoy when they say, no, we want an all Roman feast, or we want Byzantine, or especially if it's something that I haven't really done before, and I get to dig in and find new recipes and play with food, and that's super fun. And honestly, I have no idea if that answers your question or not. I'm sorry.
It's your answer. It's fine by me.
So, how do you find recipes, and how do you know how to extend them to cook for a hall full of people when most recipes are set for significantly smaller servings?
Do you mean how do I physically know how to extrapolate them, or how do I know what to serve? You're muted. You're muted.
How do you extrapolate them yourself?
Oh, that's difficult for me to answer, because honestly, food is pretty easy for me. I can taste things in my head. I can read ingredients, and I can tell if those flavors are going to blend. I can figure out, well, if we have this roast with a mustard and horseradish sauce, then we need to put it with this sweet and sour cabbage, and we need to have this, and we need to have this with it. It's just that part has always been easy for me, and I feel kind of bad about that, because I've had people ask me to teach it, and I'm like, I can't. I don't. We were talking earlier, and I said I don't know what I don't know. I don't know how I know this. I just do, and I don't know how to teach something that I haven't had to learn, if that makes sense. But as far as how do I know how much to serve, I try to do, if not full-blown test feasts, I like to do course or at least dish test runs, preferably courses, because then you get a better idea. Because if I make spinach by a batch, and I look at it, and it's just 4 or 5 of us eating, and we all eat this one thing of spinach, I can say, oh, well, this serves 6. Yeah, but when you put it with another vegetable and a meat and a bread and a dessert in the same course, you don't need 1/3 of a cup of spinach per person for this course. When it's one course, remove, of of 3 or 4. So I try to test each remove at a time, so I can get a better idea of how much needs to be served of which dish and when. And I also am part of the school of diminishing portions. It's going to sound tacky, but you need to serve. If you have things that are cheaper than others, you need to serve those first, and you need to serve those in your largest portion, in your largest quantities. And then as things get more expensive, you serve them in smaller quantities, and you serve them later, because as you go through the evening, people are going to fill up and they're going to eat less. So you don't want to blow your budget serving shrimp to 80 people in the first course, when you'll have to serve like 6 or 8 pieces a person. Whereas if you serve it in the 4th course, you can get away with serving 2. Not that I would serve shrimp anyway, because that gets into temperature, and it's a whole food poisoning thing that I would not want to get into. That was just an example. So
it gets into allergies, which is the next question. It's like a perfect segue. By the way, you owe us a drink. You got to remove in there, which means now 2.
I'm out of drink though. Hold on. Okay.
Dougal, bring her a drink.
I think he's watching too. All right.
I'm sorry, Dougal, please bring Ailleagan a drink. That was better. I apologize. All right, so how do you handle allergies? Do you eliminate a lot of them up front, or you wait till closer to the event? And I have a personal opinion on this, but I'm going to let you go. Because it's you.
Allergies they're kind of a pokey thing with me, because I've gotten burned by some people who have said, "Oh, I'm allergic to this." Well, okay, so I changed the course or whatever. Come to find out, they weren't allergic; they just didn't like it. Well, fucker, just don't eat the dish. Don't make me deprive everyone else just because you don't like it. Sorry, was that my outside voice?
Nope, that was perfect.
I've also had someone say, well, I'm allergic to this. Could you make a portion for me that doesn't have X ingredient in it? Sure. Okay. I wasn't fond of doing that anyway, because then you get into where is this person sitting, and you've got to, it's its whole logistical nightmare. But this one particular time, the person that had asked me to make them a special portion ended up not even going to feast and didn't tell me.
Oh, hell no.
So these days, the way I generally handle allergies is you come to me. I will publish a list of ingredients. I try to do it at least a month out, because not a whole lot of, at least in previous experience, not a whole lot of people would book reservations for feast and things more than a month out. So I'd publish the list of ingredients a month out. If you have questions, contact me. And if you want to say, does this dish have this thing in it? Or, I can't have blackberries. I'd say, okay, well, it's in this dish, so I would avoid this, or here are the things you can have because it doesn't contain onion or whatever the allergy in question is. I'm hesitant to outright change things because it can change the flavor of a dish. It can change the texture. It can change the quantity that's produced. And sometimes there's not always a substitution that can be made.
Behind you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dougal.
Thank you, Thing.
Oh, that's why he's my hero.
It's a good reason.
Oh. And this may be an unpopular opinion, but if you have serious, life-threatening allergies, that's on you. If you can't eat my feast, stay away from my feast. If you are anaphylactic allergic to mushrooms and I'm serving a mushroom pie, don't eat the pie. If it's that bad, don't come in my feast hall. Don't come in my kitchen. I will say I will make modifications if it's the royals that have these issues. Like when I did that egg-free weekend, because Amber's daughter was going to be on site for their decoronation, and she has an anaphylactic allergy to egg. So I will make allowances like that. That I consider that different. But to be perfectly honest, if it's just John Q. feast goer, I will help you figure out what of my feast you can eat. But I think it's rude for you to expect me to change my feast and everybody else's feast because you can't have something.
One more time for the people in the back.
Don't be a bitch.
There you go.
So I'm going to roll in with a super spicy hot take on this one.
Because one of us is allergic to onions, Eric.
Yes. So I'm allergic to onions, and it is the acid in the onion that I'm allergic to, and it will cause anaphylaxis, which means I can't have fresh onions, but onion powder, dehydrated onion, like that, I can have. I realize that onions are in a metric crap ton of period and periodish feast, as not to mention just plain mundane cooking. So, there's no way in hell I would roll up to a Feastcrat and be like, so I'm thinking about eating feast. I'm going to need you to knock onions at everything you got. Sup? That's crazy talk.
one thing to just kind of feed off of that. One thing that I started doing after, I forget what the feast was, but it was because of Mistress Rosamond, because she's allergic to garlic. And we were talking after feast one time, and she said she couldn't have any. She said everything that she could have was great, but she couldn't eat any of the meats because I'd put garlic in all of them, which I hadn't even considered. So after having that conversation with her, and that's also another way that the spreadsheets come in, is because I can look and see what ingredients are in which dishes. And so I can make sure that I have at least one meat dish that doesn't have garlic or onion,
right.
or I have at least one or two vegetables that don't have X ingredient. You know, I can make sure that there's something in each course that everybody can have.
I mean, and because I have allergies, I'm pretty sensitive to people who have like the really widespread ones. So one of the things I'll do is, if I have someone who has an allergy to something that's like shot through the feast, I'm not going to make them a separate dish of everything in the feast, because that's crazy talk. But I will make them like a T-bone with a baked potato and a salad, and they'll get a whole meal out of it. This is what I can get you that's safe and isn't going to jack up the whole feast. But yeah, people, for God's sakes, if you have terrible allergies, there's only so much that a Feastcrat can reasonably do. Mm-hmm. Thank you for your patience.
All right, so Erik has the next question, but I want to cover something right quick. I understand that the fireside chat just ended, so if you've joined us from that, welcome to the show. We've really just turned out into a kind of hangout chat, talk about feastcratting, and we've got these sort of questions that we're following along. Usually we're done with the regular questions by this point, but we're about halfway through and we're having a blast. So, Mistress Ailleagan, if you're okay with this, we're just going to keep rolling the way we've been going, and we'll finish when we finish.
That works.
All right. Erik, hit it.
So on our next question, what is it that you hope for in a kitchen, and what things do you absolutely have to have?
Oh,
if anything.
I prefer that there be a walk-in cooler. I prefer that there be a walk-in freezer. I prefer at least a 3-basin sink. If they have a Hobart, holy shit, that's like, the grail. I hope for lots of things, but Dougal and I have both feastcratted so much, not just in the SCA, but in other avenues. And we've catered, and, we've done outdoor festivals and whatnot. We've actually, over the years, built our own travel kitchen. So we can, like we did for Fighters Collegium that time, we can go to an open field and set up a kitchen and cook. So I always hope for like the perfect brand new industrial kitchen, a professional kitchen, but I think I've gotten close to that once. And that was actually at Chalakee for that first MGT we had down there. My favorite event. But other than that, I take all my stuff and hope that I don't have to unpack it, because that means I have to wash it and repack it, and that's a pain in the ass. So,
and legit, they've got a cool trailer set up with metric fuck tons of of kitchen shit. All right, so that's your perfect kitchen.
Yes.
What I want to know, I walked into some of these sketchy chicken kitchens that folks cook in, feast for 100 people, 70 people, that I'm not sure. I think there's like 2 burners that work, and like the top half of the stove works. How do you guys do that? This is, by the way, we're off script here, by the way, in case you guys didn't notice. How do you do that without, while getting the food actually cooked. If you get the food, you always get the food actually cooked, and without giving half of the kingdom of the known world food poisoning.
We have turkey burner. We call them turkey burners. It's you can buy those the turkey fryer with the deep pots and the burners. We have a couple of those. So we always take those burners and a couple of propane tanks to events with us in case we don't have hot plates or stove space. We also have a ton of coolers. And the term
and
cooler,
they're named.
Huh? Well, also,
and they're named.
Actually, also, conversely, if you have something, if you make your carrots or whatever, you get them cooked. You can cook them early on. You get those plain white unscented trash bags. You line your cooler with them. You dump the food in that. You roll the bag down. You close the lid, and you set it aside, and you've got thermal mass. And it'll keep the food warm. If it's not quite cooked, like if you cook the carrots, al dente, it'll keep cooking the carrots, and that's also an amazing way to get the food out of your way, so you can cook other stuff when your space is at a premium. I will say, if you do that though, keep a list so you don't lose a dish. Not that that's ever happened to me. I've never misplaced food.
Because that'd be a crime. All right, so kitchen crew. Is that chosen by the group, the hosting group, or do you choose your own? And can anyone come help? Because I know that some Feastcrats get their kitchen crew Jello shots. Theoretically,
I've heard that rumor. I invite my core crew. I'm very lucky. I have 12 people ish that I can go to and say, hey, can you work this event? Or, can you work in this kitchen? Even if it's just for a couple of hours. I don't get all 12 of them all the time. I don't get, I don't even necessarily get all 12 of them at the same event, but I'll usually get 3 or 4. And if I can get 3 or 4 people that I have worked with before, that I can trust to do what I need when I need them to do it, then the rest of it is pretty easy. Yes, anyone can come in and offer to help. I may or may not have anything for them to do at the time, but I will always say, check back in an hour, 2 hours, whatever. Sometimes the only thing I need them to do is wash dishes. And it's really frustrating when they come in and they want to help, and I say wash dishes, and they get cranky. That's what I need, man.
Yeah. Wash the dishes.
But yeah, if anybody is welcome to come in. I do have trepidation over using people that come in and say, well, I'm a really great cook. I want to help in your kitchen. I don't care if you can cook. Can you take orders? Because there was a feast one time, a guy came in and he was like, oh yeah, I'm a great cook. I know, I want to help out. And I was like, okay, here's the recipe. Go make this thing. And 20, 30 minutes later, I had somebody come over and they said, he's adding this ingredient to the dish. And I was like, wait, what? The dude was adding stuff that was not in the recipe to my recipe. And I went over and I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, it'd be better with this in it. And and I said, the recipe has already been published. The ingredients are published. You cannot change it. And he was putting nuts in something that was not supposed to have nuts. And I said, this is an allergy issue. and this is not your feast. You know, I didn't tell you to do this, but it would be better. And I said, then when your name is on the feast, you can do whatever you want. But right now you need to leave. So I actually have had to kick somebody out of my kitchen because they thought they knew better than me. And it's not that I think that I am perfect or that everything has to be my way, but on the day when I'm the Feastcrat of record and we're cooking and it's 2 o'clock and feast has to go out at 6, it is my way, period. And I don't play with that.
No, I could see Eric's face. He got an oh hell no on his face there for a second.
Yeah.
So I think I have some people when I cook a feast that I trust implicitly, and I know that if I give them a recipe, that there's a leeway in that don't add anything that's not on the recipe. But if you think that the ratios are a little off, I've known you long enough. I trust you to do that. You are a stranger. I do not know you from Adam. You will follow the damn rules, or you will hit the bricks. I mean, there's just
right. Well, and to that same thing at Bart Noda's coronation, I was starting to run behind a little bit, and there were more things that needed my attention, and I was starting to get scattered with it. And Gwenvin came up and said, "What can I do?" And I said, "Here." And I gave her this recipe, and I apologized all over the place because I had not written it out properly. It was just all in like Rachel's shorthand. And I mean, you know, and I said, I'm really sorry for the state that it's in. And she was like, "No, I got you. Don't worry about it." And she rocked it. I mean, she figured out what I meant, and she cooked it perfectly, and she seasoned it perfectly. But that goes back to, that's Gwenvin. I trust her implicitly because she's done this a time or two. And, you know, she's awesome.
That was the flamingo tongues, wasn't it?
It was. Yes. She mashed the flamingo tongues flawlessly.
Well, there's a reason Connell calls her a flesh-eating Laurel. So, do you do any prep at home for your feast, or do you do it all once you get on site?
I am not stupid. No, if it's tarts, spinach tarts, cheese tarts, pie, you know, pies like that, all of those get made in advance. Cookies, any desserts, I try to make in advance. Meats go in their marinades in advance. I put seasonings, like sometimes I do carrots in powder deuce. So I'll make up bags of powder deuce just for the carrots, and I label it. Or if I'm going to make fresh bread, I'll have bags of all of the dry ingredients for the bread, you know, the flour, the yeast, the whatever. And I'll have it all labeled. This bag needs, it's going to make this many loaves of bread. It needs these wet ingredients. This is how you mix it up. And that saves not only time on site, but it also saves packing space, because I'm not packing a 25-pound bag of flour and, you know, a 2-pound block of yeast and 10 pounds of sugar. And, you know, I mean, it may still all be there, but it's in much more manageable quantities. So yes, I do as much prep work as I can, especially if I'm doing just the feast, because I have to work around the breakfast crat and I have to work around the lunch crat, and I can't just throw open the doors and be like, "Be gone, bitches, I am here," and take over the kitchen.
I don't know. I think you may be able to do that at some point.
But I want to have friends when it's over.
Oh, see, there's always the caveat. All right, so this is a question that's near and dear to my heart, and I didn't even realize that Adriana had put it in here. I missed it earlier, so thank you, Mistress Adriana, for putting this in. Are you required to have any type of food safe certification to run a kitchen? like Safe Serve or one of those things?
You are currently not. I think both with the state of sites at the way they're shifting, and I think with the way COVID has affected the world now, I think you're going to see that required more and more if you want to do a feast at an event site. I fully admit I don't have it, but I'm also not an idiot. You know, I know temperatures, I know basic hygiene and cleanliness protocol. I follow it even though I'm not technically certified for it.
And I'm sure you could be. It's not, it's not a rocket surgery.
I just haven't done it, Yeah.
And I just wanted to throw out there, not officially or anything, because nothing on this show is official. But I would like to state so that people know that currently there are no feasts in the SCA right now. That is not allowed in the reopening process anywhere in the SCA. But no, I love that answer. I think you're right. I think Safe Serve or something like that is going to be a way of the future. I think on several levels we've gotten by without anyone getting violently sick or getting in much trouble because of A, some of the kitchens that we have to use, and B, some of the things that come out of them occasionally. Most of us have, if not a horror story about a kitchen, then a horror story about a feast for uncooked chicken or something of that nature, that someone got something raw that shouldn't have been. And I think that the Safe Serve thing is certainly going to be a thing of the future. That is not official. That is no prior knowledge or anything. That's just my personal opinion and take on the way things are going.
I agree with that. I think that I probably will get certified at some point in the future. I personally have, my beloved is a microbiologist, so I have an ace in the hole, so to speak. But even then, I should probably do that on my own.
Well, I think anybody who's serious about cooking, it's a good idea. And if you're serious about feastcratting, like you said, it's pretty much just common knowledge. I haven't done it out of laziness, to be perfectly honest. I just haven't.
So this is probably going to be the longest answer of the entire series of questions that we're going to ask. It's the day of the event. Walk us through that day as a Feastcrat.
Well,
right quick, what's a redaction?
It's not a remove.
And I went off script to say that.
Are you sobering up?
We hadn't worked redaction in anywhere yet, so now I've got it in there twice.
The first thing I do, no matter if I'm cooking for the weekend or if I'm cooking for the day, I claim my spot. I claim my space. I have to put my food away. And in that instance, it's much easier for me if I am doing food for the entire weekend, because I can go in and I can arrange everything where I want it to be. Whereas if I'm just doing feast, I have to work around traveler's fare and breakfast and lunch. And that's not that it's a bad thing. It just, I'm always hesitant if I have been asked to come into a different group to do a feast for their event. I'm hesitant to come in and say, well, I'm the Feastcrat, so I am in charge. Because if that's the case, I'm kind of only in charge of feast. I'm not in charge of the food. Now, if they say, we want you to be in charge of the food, you can appoint other people if you want. And so I farm out traveler's fare, breakfast or lunch or whatever, then yeah, I'm still in charge of the food and I get dibs on whatever. But if I haven't done that, then I'm not comfortable coming in and, you know, asserting my dominance over the entire site if I am just if I'm just, you know, doing a portion of it. But definitely the first thing I do, I put everything away in a way that makes sense and to me, and in a way where when I do have either, whether it's my chosen crew or random people that come in and want to help, so I can say, okay, you need these items. These items are on the second shelf on the left side of the walk-in. You know, you go in and they're right there, and I can tell them exactly where they are, and I can tell them exactly what seasonings they need and exactly where to find them and exactly where to find, you know, the pots and the pans and utensils they need. Because if they can't find them, or if I can't tell them, then I'm wasting all that time getting things done. And especially if I'm just doing feast, I'm not in the kitchen all the time. And so time is at a premium and we need to get shit done. And if we're wasting it trying to find a, you know, left-handed barbecue fork or whatever, then again, that's time lost and you can't get that back. And then we start cooking. And it's another one of those things that I kind of just know how to do. I know lots of cooks have timelines, like hour by hour, half hour by half hour, 10 minutes by 10 minutes. They're going to do this, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. And I can't operate that way. I've been very, very fortunate so far in that I've never had a kitchen catastrophe, but I have had things go a little bit sideways and you have to do a workaround, and you can't do that, in my opinion, if you have a strict timeline, because something will get bumped and something will get shifted, and that throws, it's like what they're talking about on Loki and everything right now with the alternate timelines and how things diverge. So yeah, I have a general idea of we need to have these things done by this time because this is in the first remove and this has to go out at this time and this and all that, but I don't have anything concrete. And then I just kind of, you know, cross my fingers and jump in. I'm very kamikaze that way, I guess.
Jump in with both feet.
Yep.
So I have a question that is completely unrelated, but I think you might be one of the few people who will understand what I'm about to say.
Yes.
Do you ever find that you have a hard time remembering what event you were cooking at, but you can remember the layout of the kitchen like you were there, even if it was 20 years ago?
Yep. Yeah, I can remember, like, Thomas and Elisonda's coronation, their second coronation. You know, I can remember specific feasts that went certain ways. I can remember kitchens. I can't tell you, oh, that was, you know, Tourney of the Foxes in 2013 or whatever. I got nothing.
That event was really hot.
That's a very safe thing to say about foxes.
I specifically remember that one. That one was really hot. All right, so
and it wasn't as hot as that Border Raids, what, 12 years ago? Where
KOA?
Is that where it was? Where they called the fighting?
In Cairo?
I think
in Cairo,
so.
Kentucky? Yeah.
Yep.
That event was balls hot. That was fucking crazy.
I think that was under ball hot even. I'm assuming.
So,
but was it anointed balls hot?
I was
it was not anointed salty balls hot, but it was balls hot. And just for the record, some folks have been like, "Hey, can you do a show for newcomers?" This is why we can't do shows for newcomers.
I don't know. I think we'd be really big among a certain subset of people.
Sure.
I mean, I think we're very real. I think,
right.
You know.
All right, so how do you train others to be a Feastcrat? If I'm trying to learn how to be a Feastcrat and I'm like, Mistress Ailleagan, would you teach me how to be a Feastcrat? What am I going to learn under you? How are you going to teach me? How are you going to train me to do what you want me to do?
Oh, phrasing.
Phrasing's not a thing on this show.
Come work in a kitchen with me. Ask lots of questions. Ask lots and lots of questions. I don't know how to teach it. It's what I just know how to do it. You know, when I did my first one, I had never co-feastcratted with anybody. I just did it. So
you're saying it's like porn. It's difficult to describe, but you know when you see it.
Food porn.
Oh, nice save.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I think we broke Erik.
No. I was just wondering how many aubergine jokes that I could make without getting this completely shit can.
Well, I'm 90% through this margarita, and I make a really fucking strong margarita. This is 28 ounces of margarita, so.
Apparently, Meridies is known for its culture of feasts.
Yes.
How do you see feast and feastcratting changing in the post-pandemic environment, assuming we can all stop licking windows?
It's a big if. I think maybe I think we're definitely going to see a shift toward maybe food that's already portioned out. I don't even know how I lost both of you, but I lost both of you somewhere.
Here, let me show you.
Oh. Gotcha. No, I think there may be a shift toward pre-portioned food instead of sending out whole roasts or whole chickens. You'll get breasts and quarters and breasts and thighs and legs, and keep in with the whole food porn thing. Roasts that are already cut up. You'll get maybe individual tarts instead of whole pies. And all of that is going to mean a little more work on the Feastcrat and the kitchen crew. But I think ultimately, if we're going to continue to have feasts in our kingdom, across the known world, we're going to have to learn to make adjustments just to keep it safe. And I think also that more and more sites, more and more groups requiring the ServSafe certification is going to be a shift that we'll see in the post-pandemic feast culture.
We're actually running into an issue where we're finding it difficult to even get sites to allow us to use their kitchen.
Well, definitely. And I would really hate to see feasts go away. And I don't feastcrat nearly as much now as I used to. And I unfortunately don't attend as many feasts as I used to. But I know that they're a big opportunity for fellowship, and for people to sit around and just, drink and eat good food and tell no shit there I was stories, and
right.
To just have a good familial ending to a big day. And I would hate to see that end, but we'll have to see what the world throws at us, I guess.
All right. So for our almost next, one of our last couple of questions, I have a multi-parter for you. So I'll take the first bit, and then Eric and I'll swap off. So what's the most difficult part of being a Feastcrat? What takes up the most of your energy in the prep or the actual? Is the prep or is the actual creating of the feast? What's going on there?
Prep is way harder for me. Trusting myself, because I'm super bad. Like we were talking about earlier, how do you know? Do you serve a quarter cup of this, or do you serve a half a cup of that, or do you serve a 4-ounce piece of meat in this quart? You know, because I have a tendency to overfeed people. Sometimes that's shocker. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's not so good, because it can lead to a lot of leftovers. Like I think at MGT, Bryce and Rhiannon were on the throne. I think, was that them, or were they?
They were.
Okay. I had whole chickens left over, like to the point where I put them out at breakfast the next day, and and Master Joffrey actually came up and took an entire chicken and had it for breakfast.
You make good chicken.
Thank you. But yeah, trusting myself, portion control, the short of it. Portion control is my, what's the word? Is bailiwick the word?
It is now.
Thank you.
It is the word, actually.
It's the thing I struggle with most, because physiologically, your stomach is only like this big, you know, like 2 fists.
Your stomach.
Still, if I want to feed over the course of, if I try to feed someone over the course of 4 removes, 4 ounces of meat in each course, that's a pound of meat, plus, you know, 2 cups of vegetables and 2 loaves of bread, and it's a lot of food. And it sounds great on paper, but if you're throwing food out, that's money wasted and food wasted. And I don't know, I always think people are going to eat. I always want to feed people more than they need to eat, I guess. And that's exhausting. Once I get on site, I'm actually way more comfortable, because I've bought the ingredients, and this is what I have to work with, and this is what we're going to do. And, you know, let's hit the ground running. Let's do this thing.
So what's the most frustrating part of the job?
Say it.
The kitchen is a very fun place to be, because you're eating, and I've heard certain Feastcrats have Jello shots and pudding shots for their staff. There's, you know, so there's alcohol, and we're all lighthearted, and we're having a good time. And so people want to be around that. People gravitate toward that. And that includes people who have no business being in the kitchen. And they'll congregate, and they'll be in the way, and they'll take up space, and they will look at you like you have grown a 3rd head when you tell them to move. And, and exactly. And while I don't mind saying, hey, you need to move, I understand that I have to be the one, you know, in charge, and I have to organize. Y'all stop. I have to be the one organizing the people, get the food out, to make sure the food is out on time and it's the right temperature and there's enough of it and all this kind of stuff. I hate telling people, shut the fuck up and get out of my kitchen. You know,
No, that's legit.
Because they just want to be in there where the fun is. They just want to have a good time. But you're in my way, and I have a job to do, and you don't, and you're not helping me with my job. So be gone.
No, that didn't hurt my feelings at all. I totally understood.
But you get me. I've known you for a minute.
Nah, we're good. For the record, she never actually had to tell me that. So
I did have it was Thorsten and Dalla's coronation, and we were cooking in. This was before Lex updated the trailer, This was when it was still just the trailer, the kitchen that was the length of the trailer. And there were gas ovens on each side. And we had actually closed the pantry where there was a washing machine and put a prep table there in front of it. I had a woman come in and she wanted to do her laundry while we were preparing feast. And I was like, no. I had a woman come in and stand in the middle of the kitchen with her toddler on her hip, saying she wanted to change her baby. And I was like, not in the kitchen where there are sharp, pointy items and open flames. Go to the bathroom. You are not changing your baby's diaper in my kitchen.
Please don't change your baby's diaper where I get my food from.
So, yeah, sometimes people just don't think, So that's the most frustrating, is when people. I'm hesitant to say when they only think about themselves, but it's accurate. When they don't think about what they're doing could impact, the activities of others, the food that's going to feed them and others later in that day.
No, that's completely legit. I don't want anyone changing their baby where I'm getting my food from.
Yeah, that one blew me away. Blew me away.
So, what's the most fun part of being a Feastcrat or cooking feast for, half 100 people?
Jello shots.
Right.
So I've heard.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. It's the flip side of that same coin. Because I do bring in a core group of people that I trust, people that I've worked with in kitchens a lot. We know each other and we understand each other. And all of them, I can say, go make this, or hey, make this with me. And everyone in that group can do whatever their assigned task is, and we can all still talk to each other, and we can all still laugh and tell stories and drink, and we get it done, and that is super fun when it all just kind of becomes this dance. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch it all come together.
So related to that, what's the most rewarding part of being a Feastcrat?
That's easy. When I try to allow about 20 minutes between courses, between removes, when each one is served. And so somewhere around minute 10, when I can open the door and I don't hear talking, all I hear is, the sound of forks and plates, and nobody's talking because everybody's eating. That is the greatest feeling on the planet. I love that. I love that.
Feed me, Seymour. All right.
Got you, boo.
So, I appreciate you. So, if you could give one piece of advice for someone considering Feastcratting an event, what would that be?
One piece of advice.
One piece of advice. The biggest piece of advice you have for them.
Be flexible.
That advice is excellent in many different ways.
To go food porn. To go along with it, go to someone who has prepared a feast that you've really enjoyed, or someone that you have heard has a good reputation for preparing feasts. Talk to them, ask them as many questions as you can possibly come up with. Co-Feastcrat. Start with Traveler's Fare. Work your way up. Don't be afraid to try new things. Test the new things. And when you test new dishes, when you test feasts or removes or anything, make sure you have a test audience that will be honest. Because if you serve something that tastes like dishwater with pencil shavings in it, and they go, oh no, this is great, because they're trying to save your feelings, that does you no good whatsoever. And then you're going to make a whole lot of this nasty ass soup to serve to a whole bunch of people, and they're going to think you're outside your damn mind because you made and served this thing. So you need people that will say, this is good and this is why, this is bad, this tastes like ass, you know. You've got to have a thick skin too, because you have to be able to listen to people when they say this tastes like ass, and you've got to be able to understand it. Or when you have friends that had that one dish at your grand chef feast that was terrible, and they poke you with it for like the 10 years after, you know, hey, remember how terrible that dish was?
It was not the anointed balls. Those were great.
This is also good advice in general. If someone asks you for honest critique, give it to them, because otherwise they're going to go around thinking nasty ass soup tastes good in whatever you're talking about.
I don't like dishwasher soup.
So I'm going to alter the last question for the subject matter.
Okay.
In total, how many hours do you think you spend working on a particular feast, including research, prep, the whole 9 yards? And I realize this will be a ballpark figure.
It depends. If they just want good food, honestly, a few hours, because I have to go through, probably if they just say we want good food, I will go through things I've already made, and I'll pull out, you know, a dozen or so recipes, and I'll put them together, and then I'll have to extrapolate them to feed the number of people that they want to serve at this particular event. Couple hours. But if they say, no, we want 14th century France, well, I haven't done anything that specific. So I've got to find out what sources, and then I've got to go through the sources, which I think I've found one period source in my entire history of researching food that has measurements. And I mean, they were Chinese, so I had to find a translation for what those measurements meant, but they were there, and that was a good place to start. But I think honestly, like for Barton Oda's Roman, because I hadn't done Roman before, it was total a couple of weeks between obtaining the sources and going through them and deciding what I wanted, you know, ooh, this sounds good, and then pairing, ooh, this sounds good, into, okay, I can actually prepare this. And even in the, ooh, I would like to prepare this, that was like 40 dishes. And then I had to go through and pare that down into a much more manageable number. And then you've got to test them, and you've got to, you know, tweak them and retest them. And so, yeah, several weeks is probably the longest I've ever spent on a feast, all told.
That's a significant amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we are finally to where we should be, about, I don't know, 10 till 7. So we're a bit behind schedule. We're going to ask one question from the myths and misconceptions, and I'll ask that, and then we'll ask the one question we have from our audience, and that one's really for Erik, so we'll let him ask that and answer it. So the one question I have from the myths and misconceptions. So I've crunched my numbers 1,000 times, and I've made all my lists and double checked them. I'm in the grocery store, and I'm putting stuff in my cart. This can't possibly be enough food for my guests. They will starve. And then 36 hours later at the event, I've got way too much food. I'll never learn. Is this just me, or is this literally every Meridian Feastcrat ever, or is this SCA cooks in general?
It's definitely me. I think a large number of SCA cooks do that because we like to eat, and especially with the way dining out in our modern world is, the portions are enormous. So this is what we're used to seeing, and so it's difficult when we're serving, even when we're serving 4 removes, to not make each one the size of our heads. It's a struggle. Like, I think, and we're all afraid that people are going to go away hungry, because I think right, wrong, or indifferent, to an extent, a feast can make or break an event. People are going to remember how hot it was or how cold it was. Sure. If they were fighters, they'll remember some of the fighting. If a feast is great, they'll remember it. If it sucks, they will absolutely never forget it. If it's meh, then okay, it might vanish into the ether. But if you're really good or really bad, either way, you will lodge yourself in people's memories. And I think a lot of us are afraid that underfeeding people is bad, because nobody wants to see people go into Subway or Pizza Hut when they've left your hall. So I think that's a pretty common problem.
I concur. And just for the record, it's better that you underfeed me than feed me undercooked food. I'll never forget it.
Nope.
Not you. You've always been great. Not you.
No, I undercooked food is remembered for always and all time.
All right, Eric. The last the one question from the live feed is in the chat. If you want to read it, it's really for you. So,
okay. First, I want to say, as a Feastcrat, I come from the school of wretched excess. And if one day someone's liver shuts down from eating too much of my food, I will just consider this the greatest of compliments, and I will toast them on the yearly anniversary of their passing.
You are my people, Erik.
Because I can always bag it up. I always bring Ziploc bags to bring anything extra. I send it home to people. They may not even want it, but they're going home with it. So this is a question from my dumbass squire. So first of all, why aren't you fighting Yankees instead of watching the show? Secondly, I believe it was like 1998. It was somewhere around the turn of the century. Jesus.
it was probably at Camp Arnold.
It absolutely was at Camp Arnold.
Wow, that was a minute ago.
It was in that golden era at Camp Arnold when they had like 4 stoves and all of them worked mostly. So you could crank out a lot of stuff in a short period of time, and they had the big the trestle tables, which were really doors that had the poles on them, and so you could take out a whole remove from the hall in the kitchen into the hall at one go, and just plop them down on sawhorses. God, we're making it sound like the Wild West.
It was.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the answer. Probably 1998, but it was definitely right at the turn of the century. Turn of the effing century. Jesus.
That's at least a hot minute ago. So 23 years ago-ish.
Christ.
All right, Ailleagan. Is there anything that we haven't covered tonight that you were like, fuck, why didn't we get to this?
No. Trying to consult.
For the record, For the record, this is the longest show we've ever done, other than
good?
Crown List.
Is that good or bad?
It's great.
Okay.
Great. It's fantastic.
This is not necessarily for Feastcrats, but it's for everybody else at an event. I don't care how drunk you get. I don't care what kind of munchies you get. At night,
I'm being called out.
do not steal ingredients from the kitchen on Friday night.
On Friday night.
On Friday night, because Feastcrats come to a site with everything they need the next day. And if you go in and you steal food because you think it'll be funny, because you're hungry, whatever, you are taking food out of their recipes and and you can totally be screwing up their plans, because if you take something crucial, what are they going to do? I mean, maybe not so much now because sites aren't as remote as they used to be, but there was a time in the not terribly distant past when we were, 10 miles off a dirt road, and if somebody ate your ham because they had the munchies, then, you've got an entire course that's gone to hell. So,
Don't steal food. Don't steal. Period. Hard stop. Midnight, meet in the midnight or meet in the midnight of wow, I'm drunk. Meet in the kitchen of good and evil.
I would even say don't steal it from like the walk-ins on Saturday night, because if it's in the walk-in, if it is put away, it could be something for breakfast on Sunday morning.
Right. Also, just don't mess up the kitchen Saturday night after a bunch of people have busted their asses to clean it up. Remind me to tell you guys the potato sandwich story at some point.
There are things you can do in the kitchen on Saturday night, but make sure you clean the fuck up after yourselves.
Oh, and Feastcrats really, really, really appreciate it when people who haven't been busting their asses in the kitchen all day come in and do the dishes after feast. I'm not asking you to put stuff away. I would prefer that you didn't put stuff away, because if you do, that means I don't know where it is and I got to find it to pack it away the next morning. And I'm usually, I don't want to say maybe hungover, maybe not, but I'm definitely tired, and I don't want to have to go find stuff to pack it so I can go home. So pretty please with sugar on top, or extra desserts, or whatever leftovers we have. Get a group of your friends together and go do the dishes for the weary kitchen crew after feast. You will be our heroes. And there will probably be Jell-O shots in there for you somewhere. Just saying.
Now you got me.
Okay, so anybody got any shout outs, any other shows to watch, any shows that are going to replace us when they pull us after this video gets watched? I'd like to give a shout out to the people who were doing the fireside chat broadcast, because it was probably perfectly respectable, and it was no way a band of hooliganry like you just saw here tonight. How about you, Erik?
This has been awesome.
Y'all, I'm sweet and innocent here.
Well, you're sweet. You have any shout outs there, Hot Stuff?
Everybody that's ever worked in a kitchen, anybody that's ever wanted to learn it, everybody that's ever been respectful to people that work the kitchens. Love you. Could not do it without you. And if I haven't said that enough, I am sorry, because you're what makes it happen.
That's a solid one. I'm going to give my thanks to all the Feastcrats out there who have fed me over the years and have gotten this wonderful body to where it is now as far as SCA events goes. I appreciate you very much. On the other side, on the show side, I'm going to throw a shout out to Coach's Corner. They're still doing the train the trainer and train the fighter work that will help us when we get out of this. If you're interested in watching fighting on Tuesday nights, there's a Great Fighters of YouTube show. Go watch them on Facebook. GFOY is the group. Tuesday nights from 9 p.m. Central till sometime way too early Wednesday morning. We watch fighting videos and are very catty with each other. All right. So thank you, Mr. Ailleagan, for joining us.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful to have you here. We have way the fuck blown our timeline way the hell out of the water and had a blast. As always, we'd like to thank our support crew, Jessica, Adriana, Katerina, Kikuchi, and Margaret. And most importantly, you, our audience, without whom we would just be three weird people talking about food. Wait, we just did that. Never mind. Go, Erik.
You're muted.
You're muted, brother. You're still muted. And muted. Still muted.
Bastard.
Damn it.
We're taking off next week for the 4th of July holiday, so make sure you leave out apple pie and milk for Captain America. We'll be back on some Monday in July at some point, somewhere, hopefully with So It's Your First Event, Dear God, How Does This Work? And Why Are These Weird People Talking to Me show.
All right, so if you're watching the replay on YouTube, then don't forget to like and subscribe and follow down here somewhere. And if you're on Facebook, it's up here somewhere. There, over there. Like and follow so algorithms show more of our stuff to people. And if we can hit 100 subscribers on YouTube, then we'll actually won't have weird numbers after our name. It'll actually be Hound and Stag. So subscribe.
Yeah. Finally, if you're watching live, and God bless you if you are, give us about 5 minutes for a break, and then feel free to join us on Zoom for the after show where we might discuss stories about snake juggling, firearms, cooking, how we burned it, turkeys on fire, what people ate, that guy almost died. Watch the live feed comments on Facebook for the link. We'll hang out and chat for about a half an hour after the show. Graf and Katerina is going to post the link up now.
All right, so weirdly, we still have merch. There's merch. It's on Teespring. It's now spring. So go to hound-and-stag.com and buy our merch. It pays for cool microphones like this, the microphone that Erik has. It pays for our StreamYard subscription that allows us to bring this show to you most every week. And other than that, thanks, everyone. Have a good night. See you on the after show.
Good night.
And if I die in battle, tomorrow I'll be home, though it's 70 days march to there from Rome. But a soul travels swiftly on the night wind, and if I die in battle, I'll be home again.